Before we dive into the story, let us know in the comments which city you're watching from and enjoy the story. The night was cool, the drizzle a constant companion as it painted the city in reflective puddles of light. In his hands, Ethan clutched the pizza delivery bag, its warmth a stark counterpoint to the biting chill that threatened to sap his resolve. Every delivery was more than just a routine errand, it was a detour from the crossroads looming before him. Follow the predictable, safe path of a corporate career or risk everything on a dream that had burned within him since childhood. That dream was the roar of engines, the scent of oil and metal, and the freedom of the open road, a passion that had been kindled when he received his first motorcycle at the tender age of 18. In quieter moments, when the city's cacophony softened into a whisper, Ethan recalled the electric thrill of revving an engine, the feel of wind brushing past him as he rode along endless highways. Motorcycles to him were not mere machines, they were vessels of escape, emblems of defiance against the mundane. This desire to break free from the confines of everyday expectations was as intrinsic as his own heartbeat. Ethan's passion found its perfect counterpart in Leo, a gifted mechanic whose hands were perpetually stained with grease and whose eyes glimmered with the same fiery enthusiasm for motorcycles. Their friendship had been forged in the crucible of shared dreams and late-night conversations over blueprints and engine parts. Together, they had envisioned Iron and Ember, a workshop that would serve not just as a business, but as a sanctuary for those who craved the intoxicating blend of raw power and refined design. They had dreamed in vivid detail of the workshop's layout, the gleaming tools, the scent of motor oil, and the rhythmic clatter of machinery that spoke of both precision and passion. Yet fate, with its penchant for cruel irony, had other plans. During college, a bitter argument over shared resources, a misunderstanding magnified by pride and wounded egos, had driven a wedge between them. The once vibrant vision of Iron and Ember slowly receded into a hazy realm of what-ifs, leaving behind a trail of regret and unspoken apologies. Now the irony of his life was all too palpable. Ethan was working for his Uncle Sal at the local pizza joint, a far cry from the high-octane dreams of motorcycles and the open road. Each delivery was a reminder of the life he'd chosen, a life that, though stable, left him yearning for the adrenaline of his true passion. The neon-lit streets, the rhythmic thumping of his heart in sync with the pedals of his bicycle, and the constant drizzle seemed to mock him, whispering that the life he had was not the one he desired. On this particular night, the city was alive with possibility and peril alike. The rain had intensified, transforming the familiar streets into a kaleidoscope of shimmering reflections. The lights of passing cars blurred into streaks of color, while the slick asphalt glowed with an eerie luminescence. As Ethan navigated this liquid labyrinth, his mind wandered between the safe hum of domesticity and the wild, uncertain future that beckoned him. Ahead, the address for his next delivery lay in a secluded, affluent suburb, an enclave of manicured lawns and silent, austere houses. He couldn't help but wonder about the lives unfolding behind those closed doors. Were they living in a bubble of security and contentment? Was that the destiny he should be embracing, the epitome of stability? Or was there a more exhilarating, if risky, possibility waiting just beyond the horizon? Such thoughts danced like shadows in his mind, blurring the lines between what was and what could be. The rain pounded relentlessly as Ethan rounded a corner, his focus split between the road ahead and the swirling currents of his thoughts. It was in this suspended moment that fate made its move. Not a pothole nor a stray object, but a loose metal grate, dislodged and nearly invisible under the dim glow of a streetlight, awaited him like a trap. One moment his tires gripped the slick surface with a promise of safety. The next, the front wheel skidded violently as the grate betrayed him. Time seemed to slow as the bike bucked with ferocious energy, throwing Ethan forward. The warm, comforting weight of the pizza bag sailed out of his grasp, its contents scattering into the night like a burst of fiery sparks. In that split second, a jolt of terror rippled through him as darkness crept in, not abruptly but as a gradual, suffocating fade, much like the dying light of a failing bulb. When Ethan next opened his eyes, the world was unrecognizable. He was not lying on cold, unforgiving concrete, but rather on soft, welcoming carpet. The atmosphere was entirely transformed. The pervasive urban grime was replaced by the soothing aroma of wood smoke and a hint of lavender. The room was elegantly furnished, bathed in a warm glow that suggested a life far removed from the gritty reality of city streets. Puzzled and disoriented, Ethan sat up slowly, taking in his surroundings. The pizza bag he had so carelessly lost was nowhere to be seen. His clothes, once stained with the remnants of a hard night's work, had been replaced by attire that was both comfortable and distinctly refined. As his eyes adjusted to the ambient light, he began to notice the carefully curated details of the living room, a collection of framed photographs adorning the mantelpiece, each image a silent testament to a life that was at once foreign and uncannily familiar. One photograph in particular arrested his attention. It depicted a smiling woman with kind eyes and an inviting warmth, her arm linked with a man whose confident bearing and gentle demeanor struck Ethan as a vision of the man he might become. In the same series of images, he noticed the presence of children, one with a mischievous grin reminiscent of his own youthful defiance, and another with the soft, reflective gaze of the woman. These images painted a picture of domestic bliss and fulfillment that stood in stark contrast to the solitary, conflicted life he now led. As he absorbed the details of the room, a figure emerged from behind a bookshelf, a man whose presence was both commanding and familiar. The man's hair, now streaked with dignified silver, lent him an air of wisdom and experience. He regarded Ethan with a mixture of curiosity and warmth, his voice resonating with a timbre that seemed to echo across time. "Ethan," the man said softly, as if confirming a long-held expectation. "Welcome, we've been expecting you." Ethan's mind reeled in confusion. "Expecting me? What is this place?" "Who are you?" he managed to ask, his voice wavering between awe and disbelief. The older man, who in a disconcerting twist of fate looked like an older version of Ethan himself, chuckled, a sound both comforting and unsettling. "This is a glimpse, Ethan, a possibility, a life that could be yours if only you choose to see it." He gestured around the room, inviting Ethan to study every detail. "Look closely," he said. "This is more than just about iron and ember or the motorcycles you adore. It's about the choices we make, the bridges we burn, and the paths we dare to follow." As Ethan's eyes roamed over the framed memories, his mind raced to piece together the puzzle. The man in the photo with the kind eyes, the one who exuded confidence and fulfillment, was not the figure he had imagined in his many daydreams of a future filled with motorcycle adventures. Instead, it was a vision of himself that had transcended the bitterness of past regrets and had embraced the possibility of reconciliation and true happiness. Then, almost imperceptibly, another voice interjected, a voice that belonged unmistakably to Leo, yet carried an air of wisdom and maturity far beyond their youthful days. "Ethan, you must understand," the voice said, as the figure of Leo stepped forward from the shadows, his eyes alight with a knowing sparkle. "Iron and ember wasn't just about revving engines and crafting motorcycles. It was about forging a bond, about mending the fractures of pride and resentment. It was about creating a future where passion meets purpose." The older Leo's words resonated deeply within Ethan, stirring memories of long-forgotten promises and unhealed wounds. "We had dreams, yes," the older Ethan continued, his hand sweeping across the room to indicate a large, framed photograph of two younger men, himself and Leo, beaming with unrestrained joy beside a gleaming custom motorcycle. "Dreams that once felt so distant, so out of reach. But in time, we learned that the true engine of our lives wasn't just the thrill of speed or the allure of rebellion. It was the power of forgiveness, of understanding, and of building something meaningful together." Ethan's heart pounded with a mix of regret and hope as he took in the scene. The room, filled with relics of what might have been, was a tangible manifestation of choices made and roads not taken. The familiar scent of oil and metal, intermingled with the gentle notes of wood and lavender, evoked a sense of timeless possibility, a future where the sparks of creativity and reconciliation could set ablaze the dormant embers of his soul. Before Ethan could fully absorb the implications of this vision, a disconcerting sensation began to pull at the edges of his awareness. The warm, almost ethereal glow of the living room began to waver, the edges of the space blurring and dissolving into a hazy mist. The sound of laughter and soft music faded, replaced by the distant hum of city traffic and the steady patter of rain on pavement. Ethan's breath caught in his throat as the vision fractured around him. One moment he was enveloped in the comforting embrace of a life filled with hope and possibility. The next, the scene melted away, leaving him suspended in a void between reality and reverie. A strange, almost weightless feeling overcame him, as though he were being pulled in two directions at once, the gentle allure of a future reimagined and the stark, relentless pull of his present. In a heartbeat, the dreamlike vision shattered completely, and Ethan found himself back on the rain-soaked asphalt of the city street. The world around him had snapped into focus. The cold, wet pavement beneath his hands, the scattered remains of pizza boxes, and the lone, glinting metal grate that had been the catalyst of his accident. It was as if the glimpse of another life had been nothing more than a fleeting illusion, a mirage brought on by the collision of chance and destiny. Disoriented and shaken, Ethan sat up slowly, his heart still racing from the abrupt return to reality. The rain had lessened to a steady drizzle, and the relentless hum of the city seemed to carry a subdued, mournful tune. Clutching his phone with trembling fingers, He tried to steady his thoughts, questioning whether the surreal experience had been a mere hallucination brought on by the impact, or something far more profound, a message from a future that might yet be altered by the choices he was about to make. In the silence of his confusion, one name glimmered in the recesses of his memory, a name that had surfaced in the vision almost as an afterthought but which now burned with a quiet intensity: Anya Petrova. The name resonated within him, an unexpected chord struck in the symphony of his thoughts. He couldn't recall ever meeting anyone by that name in his waking life, yet in the vision she had been the silent cornerstone of a life that was both intriguing and fulfilling. With cautious determination, Ethan fumbled through the contacts on his phone. There, nestled among the familiar names, was one that he did not remember saving: Anya Petrova. The name was written with a clarity that belied its newness, as if it had been waiting for him to discover it. A powerful instinct urged him to reach out, not in a reckless, impulsive manner, but with the measured curiosity of someone on the cusp of a significant transformation. Before his resolve could be tested by hesitation, Ethan recalled that he still owed Leo an explanation for his accident and perhaps a chance at mending the fractures of their past. Instead of dialing the familiar number of his old friend, he took a different path. His fingers hovered over the keyboard as he typed in a search query: Petrova Engineering City Center. The search results appeared almost instantly: a small engineering firm specializing in sustainable transport solutions. On the firm's team page, there was a portrait of a woman with gentle, intelligent eyes and a warm, inviting smile, the very image that had etched itself into his mind during the vision. Ethan's mind whirled with questions. Who was Anya Petrova, and what did she have to do with the life he saw in that fleeting vision? The thought that she might hold the key to a path unimagined before filled him with both trepidation and a strange sense of exhilaration. He hesitated only for a moment before composing a cautious email, a carefully crafted message that outlined his background in business, his passion for sustainable solutions, and a vague reference to a shared connection that defied easy explanation. With a deep breath, he hit send, knowing that this small act might mark the beginning of a journey towards a future richer and more complex than the one he had resigned himself to. Almost immediately after sending the email, the practical part of his mind took over. He dialed Leo's number. The sound of his friend's voice, though slightly muffled by time and distance, still resonated with familiarity. "Leo, it's Ethan. It's been too long," he began, his tone tentative but earnest. He recounted the accident, carefully omitting the fantastical details of the vision, instead focusing on the near miss and the sudden, overwhelming realization that life was far too short to be spent in regret. Leo, on the other end of the line, was quiet for a moment before responding. "Ethan, I'm glad you're calling. It's been a long time since we talked about our dreams, hasn't it?" His voice carried an undercurrent of both surprise and hope, as if he too had been haunted by the memory of what might have been. They agreed to meet the next day, an encounter that held the promise of reconciliation and the revival of a shared vision that had once seemed all but lost. As the call ended, Ethan sat back and allowed himself a moment of introspection. The vision, whether a mere hallucination or something more, had shaken him to his core. It had revealed a future not dictated solely by the roaring engines of motorcycles or the cold predictability of corporate success, but by a series of choices that transcended old resentments and opened up possibilities he had never dared to consider. In that surreal interlude, he had seen a future where Iron and Ember had not only taken off as a thriving business, but had become a symbol of personal transformation and unity, a testament to the idea that sometimes the dreams we cling to are not the ones that truly fulfill us. The photographs on the mantelpiece, the gentle presence of a family life marked by warmth and understanding, and the quiet, knowing smiles of the older versions of himself and Leo all spoke of a destiny shaped by forgiveness, collaboration, and the courage to change. Ethan's thoughts churned like the restless currents of the rain outside. He thought of the man he could become, the version of himself that embraced not just the thrill of the ride, but the deeper joy of shared success and personal growth. It was a future where every setback had been a lesson, every moment of despair a stepping stone towards something more meaningful. That night, as the drizzle softened into a gentle mist, Ethan took one last ride through the city streets. Each pedal stroke felt like a meditation on the delicate balance between past regrets and future possibilities. The neon lights reflected in the puddles like shards of a broken mirror, each fragment hinting at a story that was waiting to be pieced together. His mind was abuzz with the images of the vision, the faces of Leo, the mysterious Anya Petrova, and the quiet promise of a future where dreams and reality could merge into something truly extraordinary. He paused at a quiet intersection, the rhythmic hum of the rain on his helmet lulling him into a state of deep contemplation. The night seemed to hold its breath, as if listening for the soft murmur of destiny. In that suspended moment, Ethan made a silent vow. He would not let fear or old wounds dictate the course of his life any longer. There was a world out there, rich with possibility, brimming with the potential for reconciliation and renewal, and he was determined to seize it one choice at a time. The following morning broke with a clarity that felt almost otherworldly. Sunlight streamed through the gaps in the rain-washed skyline, illuminating the city with a gentle radiance that promised a fresh start. Ethan awoke with a newfound sense of purpose. The vivid images of the previous night, the vision of a life reimagined, lingered in his mind like a half-remembered dream, urging him to take that first bold step toward change. At a modest cafe near his apartment, Ethan met Leo. The reunion was tentative at first, their conversation laden with the weight of years spent apart and the unspoken words that had built up like storm clouds. But as they talked, the old spark of camaraderie rekindled. Memories of shared laughter, of long nights spent sketching out dreams and plans, began to dissolve the barriers that pride and misunderstanding had erected between them. They spoke of iron and ember, of the passion that had once united them, and of the ways in which life's detours sometimes led to destinations more profound than originally imagined. Leo's eyes shone with a mixture of regret and hope. "I always wondered if we could ever rebuild what we lost," he confessed quietly. "Maybe that workshop wasn't just about motorcycles, it was about building something lasting, something that reflected who we really are." Ethan nodded, his own heart stirring with the realization that the old wounds were slowly healing, replaced by a mutual understanding forged in the fires of shared ambition and regret. As the conversation deepened, Ethan shared fragments of his experience: the sudden accident, the strange dream of a life replete with family, success, and unexpected connections. Though he withheld the more surreal details, the essence of his message was clear. Life was too fleeting, too unpredictable to be spent living in the shadow of what might have been. In that moment, both men felt the gravity of the choices before them, the weight of possibilities that lay open if they were brave enough to take a risk. After parting ways with promises to meet again soon, Ethan felt a renewed vigor. The city, once a bleak landscape of concrete and regret, now shimmered with the promise of transformation. With every turn of his bicycle's wheels, he could almost hear the echo of a future reimagined, a future where the roads of destiny converged into a single, exhilarating path. Later that day, back in the solitude of his small apartment, Ethan sat at his desk, the glow of a single lamp casting long shadows across the pages of his journal. With deliberate care, he began to write, a chronicle of his thoughts, his fears, and the tantalizing vision of what could be. Each word was an act of defiance against the constraints of a predetermined life, a declaration that he was ready to break free from the shackles of regret and embrace the infinite possibilities of the future. The journal became his confidant, a silent witness to the tumult of emotions that surged within him. He penned reflections on the nature of choice and destiny, on the delicate interplay between ambition and humility. In the quiet moments before sleep claimed him, Ethan allowed his mind to wander freely, conjuring images of iron and ember not merely as a workshop, but as a living testament to the beauty of second chances, a place where dreams were nurtured, friendships healed, and the roar of engines was matched only by the steady pulse of a life well lived. And then there was Anya Petrova, the enigmatic presence who had emerged from the shadows of his vision. Her image, captured in a single, unforgettable moment on an engineering firm's website, had awakened something deep within him. It was as if she represented a missing piece of the puzzle, a bridge between the man he had been and the man he aspired to become. The mysterious allure of her name beckoned him to explore a realm of possibility that extended far beyond the confines of his current existence. Unable to resist the pull of this newfound curiosity, Ethan crafted a thoughtful email to Anya. In his message, he delicately wove together his background in business, a hint of his passion for innovation, and the notion of a shared connection that defied conventional explanation. With each carefully chosen word, he laid the groundwork for a dialogue that might one day illuminate not only her world, but his as well. In the days that followed, Ethan found himself in a state of quiet anticipation. The familiar rhythm of his daily life, the steady cadence of pizza deliveries and the monotony of routine, now pulsed with the vibrant potential of change. Every conversation, every fleeting encounter carried the promise of a hidden opportunity waiting to be discovered. The city, once a backdrop for a life resigned to mediocrity, had transformed into a canvas upon which he could paint a future limited only by his own imagination. He reconnected with old friends and reached out to colleagues, each interaction a subtle step toward reclaiming the dreams that had once defined him. The reawakening of his passion for motorcycles, fueled by memories of windswept highways and the intoxicating sound of revving engines, lent him the courage to confront the uncertainties of the road ahead. And through it all, the vision of that alternate life, a life that embraced both the thrill of the ride and the warmth of human connection, remained a constant beacon in his mind. Ethan's renewed sense of purpose began to ripple outward, touching every aspect of his existence. Conversations with Leo grew deeper, their discussions evolving from nostalgic recollections of youth to earnest deliberations about future ventures. They debated designs for iron and ember, reimagining the workshop not as a relic of past ambitions, but as a dynamic hub where creativity, craftsmanship, and community converged. The prospect of rebuilding their friendship and the business they had once envisioned filled them with a cautious optimism that bordered on transformative. As weeks melted into a tapestry of rain-soaked afternoons and sunlit breakthroughs, Ethan came to understand that the vision he had experienced was not a mere anomaly, but a catalyst, a gentle prod from the universe urging him to confront the ghosts of his past and reshape the narrative of his future. The incident with the loose metal grate, the shattering of his old life on the rain-drenched streets, and the subsequent glimpse into a reality filled with hope were all intertwined threads in the fabric of his destiny. Late one evening, as the city slept beneath a blanket of mist and distant streetlights, Ethan sat on a park bench, lost in thought. The cool air carried whispers of memories long buried, and in that reflective silence he allowed himself to mourn the loss of what could have been. Yet as he gazed up at the star-studded sky, a sky that had witnessed both his triumphs and his failures, a profound clarity settled over him. Life was not a series of fixed outcomes. It was an ever-evolving journey shaped by the choices we dare to make. The past, with all its scars and regrets, was merely a prologue to the unwritten chapters that lay ahead. In that moment of introspection, Ethan resolved to embrace the uncertainty of the future. He would not allow fear or regret to dictate his path any longer. Instead, he would step boldly into the unknown, guided by the lessons of his past and the promise of a life reimagined, a life where every turn of fate, every unexpected detour, held the potential for redemption and growth. As the narrative of Ethan's life began to shift, so too did the contours of his destiny. The phone call with Leo had set in motion a series of events that promised not only the resurrection of iron and ember, but also the mending of old wounds and the opening of new doors. The day of their long-awaited meeting arrived with the gentle warmth of a spring morning, the air filled with the soft promise of renewal. Over coffee in a sun-dappled cafe, Ethan and Leo spoke at length about their past mistakes, their shared dreams, and the uncertain future that now lay before them. In that intimate setting, the bitterness of bygone conflicts slowly gave way to forgiveness. They reminisced about the days when their youthful enthusiasm had lit up even the darkest corners of their lives, and in doing so, they discovered that the essence of their bond had never truly been lost. It had simply been obscured by the fog of pride and miscommunication. With each passing word, the distance between them shrank, replaced by an earnest desire to rebuild not only their business venture, but the very foundation of their friendship. Ethan's thoughts drifted back to the mysterious Anya Petrova. Though he had not yet received a reply to his cautious email, the hope of what that connection might lead to filled him with a quiet excitement. He imagined a future where her intelligence and compassion would blend seamlessly with his own passion and ambition, creating something wholly unexpected, a partnership that might span both professional innovation and personal fulfillment. The prospect of exploring this new connection was as thrilling as it was daunting, a reminder that the tapestry of life was woven with threads both familiar and foreign. And so with each new day, as Ethan pedaled through the rain-washed streets or sat in quiet reflection, he carried within him the memory of that surreal vision, a glimpse into a life where the roar of engines was matched by the laughter of loved ones, where the dreams of youth were given new life through forgiveness and reinvention. The echo of that night, with its blending of past and possibility, became a constant source of inspiration, urging him onward toward a future that was his to define. In the unfolding chapters of his journey, the path ahead remained unwritten, a vast expanse of potential waiting to be explored. And as Ethan embraced the uncertainty with a heart no longer shackled by regret, he discovered that sometimes the most profound adventures begin when we dare to let go of what we think we want, and instead follow the subtle, persistent call of what we truly need. The city around him continued to pulse with life, its neon veins and rain-kissed alleys a testament to both the beauty and brutality of existence. Yet in that vast, unpredictable tapestry, Ethan found a singular truth. The future was not a destination to be reached, but a journey to be savored, a journey defined by each courageous choice, each heartfelt conversation, and each unexpected connection that transformed the ordinary into the extraordinary. As the pages